because I've worked in prisons, I've got to have an alias online. When you work with prisoners, they get really attached. And so what happens is they'll say, Michael, when I get out, can I see you? What's your Facebook? What's your Instagram? And so then I'm always like, I don't really have any social media. If it's okay for them to come up to me and ask for help, I want them to ask anyone for help, any other professional for help. I've worked in youth prisons for 4 years. I've worked in adult prisons. Now I have my own private practice, and I work also in the NDIS space. I've grown up in government housing my whole life. My mum's still in government housing. So one of 3 boys, I'm a middle child. I was kind of labelled as the devil child. Just keep it simple. You can come to me with 10 problems, but if you're coming with 10 problems, we're literally only going to focus on one thing at a time, and we're going to complete that cycle. The famous Gabor Mate says, who I just saw recently, he says, trauma is not what happens to you, it's about what happens inside of you. When I speak with so many people and I bring my best self to them, what happens to the people closest to me? They don't really get that best self.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mike Larry.
Mike Larry, am I?
How do you actually like to be addressed? Because I'm always confused every time I try to introduce you to someone.
A few names, actually.
I call you Misha.
Michael Diab.
Michael Diab.
Michael Diab. Ah, okay.
That's my professional name.
To be honest.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Michael? Tell us a little bit.
I thought Mike was your professional name.
Mike, easier. Because I've worked in prisons, I've got to have an alias online. So I can't really have my real name.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So and what you picked Mike Larry from Bad Boys?
Yeah. I picked it because it was just
You remind me of him, actually.
No. It was just a spur of the moment type of thing. I think, yeah. And I mean, look, we'll get to it, but when you work with prisoners, they get really attached. And so what happens is they'll say, Michael, when I get out, can I see you? What's your Facebook? What's your Instagram? And so then I'm always like, I don't really have any social media because I don't want them to kind of continue to see me when they're out. They need to look for help somewhere else.
Right? Why is that?
Because it's, you kind of want them to kind of work on their own.
It's work-life, personal life thing. You want to have a bit of a barrier there, I'd assume.
So you wouldn't want an ex-client through the prison to become a client afterwards?
My goal in working with anyone in a prison setting is I'm trying to get them to encourage. I'm trying to encourage help-seeking behaviour. So I want, what that means is, if it's okay for them to come up to me and ask for help, I want them to ask anyone for help, any other professional for help. I don't want them to kind of just get used to me. I want them to be able to go, because the problem with them getting used to me is that they rely only on me.
Before we get too far, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Yeah. That was we were straight into it. Yeah. So I'm Michael Diab. I'm a 7 years experienced psychologist. I've worked in youth prisons for 4 years. I've worked in adult prisons. Now I have my own private practice, and I work also in the NDIS space. And a little bit about my personal background. I've grown up in government housing my whole life. My mum's still in government housing. So one of 3 boys, I'm a middle child. So middle child syndrome is true. I was kind of labelled as the devil child. So, I think I got into psychology because I'm really interested in human behaviour and why people do things. And I think problem solving is the biggest thing, the reason why I love psychology is because I like to help people solve problems, but also get back into routine. I think, you know, yeah.
Explain that a little bit further. What do you mean by get back into routine? You're helping them get back into their routine? Or
Yeah. So my main goal, I don't really.
what if they had a toxic routine? Would you know, like maybe, would it be more like setting their routine or getting them back into a routine? Like what? Elaborate on that.
It's more about, you know, I remember being in year 11 and a teacher said to me, the KISS principle. Do you guys remember the KISS principle?
The KISS principle?
KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Never
So I always say to people, just keep it simple. You can come to me with 10 problems, but if you're coming with 10 problems, we're literally only going to focus on one thing at a time, and we're going to complete that cycle. So we don't want to kind of, we want to just focus on, say for example, someone might come with relationship issues, drug and alcohol issues. They're really depressed, and I'll say to them, have you had a shower? Have you been able to eat? Have you been able to, drink water, 2 liters of water a day? And sometimes they just say no. And so we literally just go back to basics. Because once you start doing these small routines, then you can get back into your routine of who you want to be. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, keep it simple.
A bit of life coaching is involved, I guess, as more.
Look, I have a bit of an issue, and psychologists have an issue with something called life coaching. I don't know. Only because it's such a debatable kind of term, life coach. I don't know. I think for me, it's really hard when someone tells me that they're a life coach. What do you guys, actually, let me ask you a question. What do you guys both know individually about what psychology and mental health is? What is it?
You want to go first?
For me, I think psychology it's obviously talk therapy for people. It's helping people reflect on who they really are, because sometimes you get caught up in your own head or in your own circumstances or in your own traumas of life, and being able to speak to someone who can guide the conversation or navigate the conversation in a certain way for you to open up and realize where you've gone wrong. For instance, like you said, they could have just forgotten to have a shower because they're in their own head. So you're guiding them back to basics, and then from the basics, you build the foundations to be able to beat or overcome the thought patterns that they've adapted over time.
Yeah,
So
nice.
yeah,
I'm just going to keep it simple. It's just your self-talk. I think you're helping that person readjust their self-talk. So that voice in their head, whether it's telling them to do or whether it's bringing up past traumas, I think it's two major things is probably working through traumas and helping them heal from trauma and helping them with their self-talk. So that voice in their head, maybe building it up to start to say better things and move them to a better place, probably would be my thoughts on psychology.
Yeah, nice.
How do you approach, like from what I know, you approach psychology in a bit of a holistic way. If someone came to you with a really deep trauma, how do you work with that in a holistic pathway?
Give me an example of what a deep trauma means. What's that mean?
Let's just say, for example, someone was molested as a child. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And so the famous, I'm going to quote someone here, the famous Gabor Mate says, who I just saw recently, he says, trauma is not what happens to you, it's about what happens inside of you, right? So you could have been traumatized as a kid, right? But I try to think about what's happening to their body, what's happening inside of them as well. Are you able to sleep? Are you able to go to the bathroom? Are you able to, eat? Are you able to, what happens to your physiology? Because it's all linked, right? And
it sounds to me that comment of what happens inside of you would be related to the way you perceive the trauma.
Exactly.
As well.
Exactly, yes. It's about how you've perceived it and how you make sense of it, right? So, and what you do in your life to adapt to what's happened, right? So you could either say, and an example of that is you could say, this happened to me because I'm really a bad person, I'm not good enough, and it can play into that, right? And so then you could potentially have all these kind of physical difficulties, autoimmune disease, all these kind of,
byproducts of the stresses of
byproducts of the stress, right?
I've heard a saying also probably relevant is that it's not your fault what happened to you, but it is your fault how you bounce back. So I guess it also may be teaching them how they are accountable because they keep blaming whatever happened to them. Yeah. But it comes down to that person isn't the person that's going to heal or help them. It's within. That's the only person. You're the only one that's accountable for.
But I think the difficulty.
Sorry. Yeah, it's okay.
I think the difficulty with that is we're assuming that everyone can be accountable, right? We can't ever assume people can or have the tools or the people around them to get the right help or be accountable, right? Sometimes people just don't have access to it. You might live in a rural area where your nearest doctor or psychologist or counsellor is 100 kilometres away and you might not have access to telehealth. So it's hard for someone to get the right tools or help, right? Trauma, how we see it is, or something that's reoccurring is kind of like things like reoccurring nightmares, flashbacks, you're reliving the event that's happened to you over and over again in your head, and you can't just progress. You can't take another step. And so with that in mind, there's other therapies, that are specialized trauma therapies. I don't do any of those just yet, and I want to. There's one called EMDR. It's a really amazing therapy. It's really...
what does that stand for?
It's testing me here. It's eye movement, desensitization, rapid eye movement. Wait, no. No. Sorry, I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Can someone look it up? And
what did you say it was?
EMDR.
EMDR.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Eye movement.
Yeah.
Desensitization.
Yeah, I'm doing the training in April. I'm doing what is it?
Rehabilitation.
And reprocessing. Yeah, so it reprocesses your brain. So, all right.
Yeah, it's cool.
So it's called EMDR, which is eye movement, desensitization, and reprocessing. So
that you remember that.
Yeah. So Gabor Mate, he also talks about neuroplasticity and how people, when they experience trauma, they rewire their brain or reprocess in a way that they're thinking in a different way, right? And so that takes time. That takes effort, Sorry, were you going to say?
No, yeah. When you think and feel a certain way, there's pathways in the brain. So from point A to point B, and when you keep feeling and thinking a certain way, you create different pathways or you weaken certain pathways. Essentially the pathways to happiness or the pathways to feeling good, because you're not thinking them over and over, you end up with the pathways that are on the more negative side with certain emotions, certain feelings. And then that's what neuroplasticity is. It means that we can remend these pathways to the sides or the pathways that we want to be feeling emotions and states of consciousness that we're...
Have you heard of David Dispenza? That's the first thing that comes to mind.
No. Tell me about him.
That's exactly what Jonathan's talking about. It's about like your neuron pathways. Like let's just say, the little one is like brushing your teeth. You brush your teeth with your right hand every day. And then you start to brush with your left hand. That part of the brain starts to open up like the pathway towards opening that up. So if you're not going in this direction, it doesn't grow. But if you take a new direction and you keep taking that direction, that neuron pathway starts to grow and develop new neurons in your brain. And it's Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Nice.
David Joe Dispenza. He's got a really, really good podcast. I think it's like how many days is it? Like a 12-day or 12 series. The Rewired, Rewired podcast on Gaia. You really like it.
Have you guys been asked, like what made you guys start organic reflection?
Yeah.
You've
been asked that?
Yeah, we've been asked. We can answer it. I think we answered it in the last podcast.
Oh, did you actually?
But that's okay.
We started Organic Reflection because we wanted to start a movement on health and wellness, essentially. And we knew that whatever we did was going to have to be around, our health and wellness and our own principles and the way the way we live life. And we came across a product called Carbon 60 and it all eventuated from there.
And what do you guys think the kind of link between Carbon 60 is and mental health?
Well, Carbon 60 is a sort of supplement that works on a molecular level, on a cellular level, and it helps your energy production, your mitochondria fight and produce energy through the ATP process in a much easier way. And through that, you end up with more energy, less inflammation, less brain fog, less pain. So when you combat all those, daily mainstream issues, you're automatically going to feel better. And by feeling better, then you're going to have a better mental state, better state of consciousness. And that's why there is reports of, anecdotal evidence of people who have improved their mental health, mental well-being. It helps a lot of people with their depression because of those reasons.
And so is it good to take with something or without something?
It doesn't counteract with anything else. It's a sort of product that you can just take and it, like I said, it works on a cellular level and it helps different functions. So essentially what the main process of Carbon 60 is, it's a carbon molecule made of 60 atoms, 60 carbon atoms, and it's shaped like a soccer ball. And the way that it works is it holds hydrogen ions inside of it. It's one of the first discovered molecules to actually hold other atoms inside of it. So it takes on these hydrogen ions, and which makes it negatively charged or positively charged. And then you've got oxidative stress in your body, which are positively charged. And then they interact with each other and it pulls ions off the oxidative stress and it neutralizes it. So because of that, your body now has less oxidative stress, less inflammation, and then it's your body's fighting or using less energy to keep things running. And it can, send energy back to the immune system, back to your brain. It frees up energy for other processes in the body.
Okay. So I just have a question.
Yeah.
Say I'm your client and I have a reading level of grade 5. How are you going to explain all that to me? If I can't read and I can't...
Well, essentially, the way I'd explain that would be is Carbon 60 is an anti-inflammatory.
And what does that mean?
And an antioxidant.
What does anti-inflammatory mean?
Anti-inflammatory means also inflammation is... inflammation, it's the opposite of inflammation. So it helps to reduce inflammation in the body. So when you've got inflammation in an area, your body's sending, a lot of blood flow to that area to help repair something or to help signal you that something's going on in that area of the body.
How would I get inflammation?
inflammation, we've all got a certain level of inflammation in our body. Like there's a healthy level of inflammation, but then sometimes, things, essentially if you fall over and you hurt yourself, you're going to get inflamed in the area.
What you eat, what's in the air around you, toxins. There's multiple factors. For example, if you break a bone, that area needs to be healed. So the body will send inflammation to that area, and it helps heal the area. Number one cause, or maybe not number one, but a big cause of a bad mood is inflammation in the brain. So what carbon-60 does, it helps rid that inflammation. And but we've got a lot of people coming to us telling us, I'm in a much better mood. Well, number one cause of bad mood is inflammation, and we're guessing it's helping you rid that information from your body and your brain.
Nice. Another thing you guys mentioned was depression. What's your understanding of depression? Because I know my understanding of it as a psychologist, but I want to know what you guys know about depression. What's your understanding of when someone says to you, I'm depressed, what does that kind of make you think that they are?
Yeah, so I feel like it falls down to a lot of things. There's a lot of ways you can answer the question, but if someone was to come to me and tell me they were feeling depressed, I'd probably ask them, what are you eating? What are you drinking? What's your habits like? Are you training? Are you going to the gym? Are you working? What's your daily routine look like? I feel like, and again, I know it's probably a clinical diagnosis, and a lot of people think they may have a chemical imbalance in their brain, and they're feeling sad. Essentially, you're depressed, you feel sad, you're not feeling good, you don't want to get out of bed. For me, I feel like lifestyle plays a big part of depression. So if they start putting good food, nutritious food into their body, they start moving around. I heard a funny saying that you don't see the ancient emperors, they were never depressed, or the people that were going to war, what would you call them? The Romans that were going to war. They had no time to be depressed because they're moving their bodies. They're not there sitting at home slouching around, putting on weight. I feel like movement of the body it probably plays a big part in that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
How would you describe depression?
Yeah, depression for me, I think, is to, depress. It means to not be accelerating, essentially. So moving forward in life. If you have passion, if you have drive, if you have business, if you have family, if you have friends, missions, day to day, then you're not really gonna be depressed. Everyone's gonna have bad days. But I don't think that's depression. I think if I personally didn't move forward in my life, then I'm depressing, and I've experienced it. You start to feel, worse, and you have the worst days. But I think people can't mistake depression with a bad day. They're two different things. Sometimes, I feel depressed, and then I realize I just needed to take a shit. You got to be careful with what you categorize as depression, because not just any bad mood is depression.
And I like what you both said, because you both said something different, right? And I think it's important that when you talk about depression, it's what Paul touched on was really helpful, and what you touched on was different, right? I like, because both of you talked about depression in two different ways. How we see depression is something called major depressive disorder, where you have to tick. So we have a thing in psychology called a diagnostic and statistic manual. It's like a Bible for us, where we go in, and if someone comes with these symptoms over a certain period, we tick off. If they've ticked off 9 of these symptoms, which could be no sleep, lack of appetite, apathy, you don't want to go out, right? If you've ticked off these, then you could fall into the category of major depressive disorder, where it's a disorder, right? Whereas and you were touching on that, and you were touching on depressive states. You can be in a depressive state, right? I could break up with a girlfriend and go, I'm in a depressive state, which is very normal, right? The thing that I like to help people is to kind of help people understand that sometimes you got to sit in the uncomfortable feeling to grow. We don't want to sit there and think depression is bad, right? It's more, we want to think about depression as it's kind of like a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you might have really good days, and sometimes you might have really low days, right? And sometimes you're feeling really depressed, and sometimes if it happens over a longer period, then we've got some sort of issue if nothing's happening, if you're not progressing.
Yeah, because it goes back to the pathways.
Yes. And so that's why I'm a big advocate for introducing something, right? So when people are clinically depressed, which is major depressive disorder, there's literally 2 things we tell them to do. I'll say, every day we want you to do something you could master. So it could be learn how to play the guitar. And the other thing you want to do is a pleasurable activity, which is go and sit out in the sun and watch the clouds, or go to the beach. And I would get my client to do it every day, something different, right? And something like C60 can potentially be introduced in that, what they call that behavioral activation, because you're activating new behavioral pathways. Right?
Is that the tools that you think
that's the tool? That's the strategy that we use.
Okay.
So we would, look, there's other strategies. There's like cognitive behavior therapy strategies. There's EMDR for depression. There's acceptance and commitment therapy. So my approach is very much a little bit of cognitive behavior therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy, where I try to help people learn to sit with uncomfortable emotions, because they're going to come and they're going to go. So
can you get into the details about some of these therapies?
Okay. So I'll tell you with,
sorry, if let's just say I was coming to you and I'm like, Michelle, I'm feeling a bit depressed. Like, how would you help? Like, what would you do?
Well, similar to what you've said, right?
Yeah.
Ask them about their day. What do they do when they wake up? What do they do when they, what are the kind of presenting issues? There's we want to know, what are your things that you're finding most difficult with? What have you tried before? So have you tried, when you're stressed, are you using kind of toxins like illegal substances to make yourself feel better, right? And through research, we know that's not going to really make you feel better. It's going to numb the pain. It's like a Band-Aid, right? What else have you tried? Have you spoken to people? Have you done talk therapy? Have you, and I'll get to know them a little bit about attachment. I like attachment theory, and attachment theory is about, when you were younger, both your primary caregivers, right? Your mum and your dad, they're up until about 4 years old, you're attached to them, right? So if you fall over, the only way, and hurt yourself, the only way you can regulate yourself is through what they call co-regulation, right? So they go, I need my mum or dad to make me feel like I'm safe, right? So then when people get to a certain age, they then go into self-regulation. So they regulate themselves. So if they fall down, they'll go, okay, how can I know that my life's not going to end and I'll be okay, right? Whereas some people, they have early attachment difficulties where when they would fall over, their parents weren't there, or they were not available to them, or they were in chaos. So they thought to themselves, whenever something bad happens, I can't trust anyone else, right? So then that replays into adult life. So then when something bad happens, they think it's their fault. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Are we digressing a lot? I feel like we're like, we're not sticking. Are we sticking to the?
Yeah, it's just a
cool,
combo.
Cool.
You're gonna, it's going to go left, right, up, down.
Okay. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, that was really.
I want to know more about.
I really serenaded with him because I got a daughter under 4 years old, so it's like, it's interesting to hear that.
On the topic of the co-working, because we probably both want to hear
co-regulation.
Co-regulation.
Yeah.
What is the best way for the parent to approach their child falling over? Because I know if you laugh at them, it can potentially, affect them in a certain way. And if you're overly comforting, it could probably, what's the best way to sort of approach, your kid's just fallen down, they're screaming, they've hurt themselves. As a parent, what would be the best co-regulation?
I think, everyone has their own different opinion. And I think, the only way to kind of help them with their regulation is to hold them.
Comfort, yeah. Always
comfort them, always hold them. A lot of difficulties parents have is that because we have 5 core emotions, right? Do you know what they are? So anger, sadness, happiness, fear. 4 core emotions, right? And so when they experience these 4 core emotions, people sometimes get confused and they think my kid's being angry, I'm going to put them in the corner, right? But no, that's a very normal experience to have for someone, right? Because if you put them in a corner and they're not held while they're angry, when they get older, they're going to think this is like, when I'm angry, I'm just going to isolate and not see anybody and not speak to anybody, right? So it develops these patterns where they're not really understanding that that's also a normal emotion, right? So there's a really good book. I forgot who the author is.
On that topic quickly.
Yeah.
Something that we do with, what I do with my daughter, and I find it helps. I don't know if it's bad or not. Let's just say she's fallen over, but she hasn't hurt herself, but she's like maybe about to cry. I'll just be like, you're okay. Like I'll smile and she'll regulate that as I'm not going to cry. But if I react and I'm like, oh, are you okay? She'll react in that emotion. So it will make her sadder. So I feel like sometimes if I react less, it's actually beneficial to her just getting up and laughing. She'll laugh it off.
I used to do that too, but there was someone that told me to read a book. I didn't actually read the book, but he was telling me that by you telling them that they're okay, then they're not able to process if they're okay or not because you're telling them they're okay. So what he said, a better thing to do was ask them if they're okay. And ask them how they feel. And I've only been implementing it for like the last 2-3 months since I heard that. And now when my kids fall over or hurt themselves, something happens, I just keep asking them, what happened? What happened? Did something, are you okay? How do you feel? And it gets their mind off it very quick because instead of them crying, they're actually trying to remember what happened. Oh yeah, I hurt my finger. Like, where have you hurt? And it's actually working really well. Cool. And apparently it's a lot better for the subconscious rendering as well, just because they're having to process if they're okay or not. And then which probably then leads them into what you were talking about because they're in the co-regulation phase, but then they go into the self-regulation. So maybe that primes them for the self-regulation. It kind of makes sense.
Does make sense.
Now,
so it's kind of like, I'll give you an example. In my background working with prisons as a psychologist, I found a lot of kids, mostly guys, men and young boys, they had to self-regulate early because their primary caregivers were never there. They didn't have these. So everybody has what they call developmental milestones, right? They get to a certain age. So I'll give you an example. So up to about 3 years old, a young boy or a young girl, they don't have this theory called the theory of other. So they don't actually think other people exist, right? So they think it's only my world. If I push someone, I'm not going to know how they're going to feel if I push my younger sibling.
Yeah, it's very narcissistic.
Yeah. They're narcissists. Children are, and that's fine. And that's it's very normal to be a narcissist as a child, right? Because it's like their own world, right? And I think, just going back, I just remembered that book that I was just saying. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. It's about how this therapist went out to see all these traumatized kids where he'd have, and it's very confronting, this book. It's like really confronting, where he was like a very experienced therapist. He'd have like a young girl who was traumatized sit on his lap, think that she had to unzip his pants. This was a young girl, yeah. And he had to retrain her and retrain a lot of the parents into how to just hold these kids and just, just be present. And I think that's the difficulty with what people understand as co-regulation and self-regulation, is that sometimes you need to just be present for them to feel safe again.
Just be here now, as Ram Dass says.
Yeah, be here now. And going back to depression, the way I explain it to a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, I will say depression is about, and I'll draw a line with an arrow going backwards, and I'll just say thinking about the past. And that's how I would say if someone's feeling depressed, they're thinking about past actions or what's happened in the past. And if I talk about anxiety, I'll draw an arrow and I'll say, we're thinking about the future, right? And what we want to try to do is be present.
Right here, right now.
Yeah. And so I think, I think psychology is...
It's very normal to think in the past and think in the future too. So is there an approach to have a better outlook or just perceive things a little bit better? Because at the end of the day, it comes down to perception.
Yeah. I mean, look,
like if you're looking at the past and you're looking at the positives of the past and connecting dots and working out where you've come from, then it's
Oh, for sure. No. I think if you're kind of brewing on,
I think it's having a healthy relationship.
We don't always have to be present either.
Having a healthy relationship with the past, and having we talk a lot about the law of attraction and thinking forward. I think it's so important to think forward, and obviously anxiety is a thought that of the future, something that hasn't even happened yet. And a lot of the times when for example, you're jumping out of an airplane, the whole time, every day up until the time that you're jumping out of the airplane and you're physically in the air, you're anxious the whole way. And then when you're actually doing the thing that you're anxious about, you're no longer anxious. And
so, yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And I think for me, I'm anxious being here today, right? Because it's first time on a podcast. I've never really kind of spoken out. I usually have groups and I run group therapy, 12 guys, 10 guys, or one-on-one therapy, where I'm pretty anxious doing this, but I'm sitting in the anxiety. I'm accepting it, right? It's kind of like, because the difficulty I have with people is that they think anxiety and depression is bad. It's not bad. It's a very normal sub emotion, right? It's an emotion that people feel, which is very normal. You might feel depressed. I think the first thing you need to do, and for me, is talk about it and say, I'm feeling this, right? Because that doesn't just help me with you guys, it helps me with me. When you do public speaking, people will say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit anxious at the moment. It helps them ease their anxiety,
Thank God I got that off my chest. That's what people say when they speak about it.
Yeah. I mean...
What?
I didn't understand that.
As in when someone's talking, let's say I'm anxious and I'm speaking to you about something. When we speak, and I'm like, bro, thank you for, thank God I got that off my chest. As in when you're speaking to someone.
So I've got a question for both of you. I know you guys are established builders, fathers. You got your business. You guys are always thinking about, expanding your business and your learning capacity and your life in general, right? When you guys were at your lowest, personally, when you were at your lowest moment, from a mental health perspective, what tools or strategies or things that you said to yourself, what did you say to yourself to keep you going? out of it. What were
This too shall pass. I say it all the time.
What do you say?
This too shall pass.
What do you mean by that?
So no matter what situation you're in, it'll pass. So whatever problems you're dealing with today, in 2 years' time, let's say, they're not going to be there. You're going to have a new problem. So there's always going to be a new problem. This problem that you have right now will not be a problem in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. So just reminding yourself, hey, I'm in this right now. Feel that emotion. Know that you're here. Understand that you're here. And been there heaps of times. But
can you share a little, like an example of a problem?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to tell me details.
No, I could just do a small problem. Could just be like, you mentioned building. We could have a problem and it feels like it's unfixable on a job site, and we might need to tell the client something's gone wrong, and there's something. It's probably just a light, easy example to give. I could give bigger ones, but you just know, there's going to be another problem. Like, this is a problem. Let's find the solution.
Just quickly, when you had this problem, because I want to unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
What was going on for you in your body? What was happening for you? When you were struggling?
He's talking about a time where you were at your lowest.
A time when I'm at my lowest.
Yeah. What was happening for you in your body? What was at your lowest?
What was at my lowest?
No. Tell me about the time when you were at your lowest, and what was happening to your body when you were at your lowest. And I want you to think about, why was it your lowest point?
Elaborate about what was happening. As in, what do you mean? What's happening?
So, were you able to kind of go to the bathroom? Did you get really kind of tight chest pain? Did you get really like
anxiety,
stomach
that
pains?
feeling of anxiety, stomach, like the butterfly, but that anxious feeling tight in the chest, racing thoughts.
How long for? How long did it last?
The lowest lows probably like a couple of weeks of that feeling. You just like you get up.
Couple of weeks.
As in like.
How was sleep?
Yeah, average.
What's average?
Like, you're up late thinking, you're up early, you didn't have a good rest. So it all goes hand in hand. You're not having good sleep. You're waking up, you're even worse. Because you haven't had a good night's sleep. Obviously, sleep. Sometimes, having a little one, some nights I'd sleep 2-3 hours, and I'd have to tell myself that day, hey, just detach from any feelings that you have today, because you're not gonna be feeling good. And I would know how to regulate that and know, hey, I just haven't slept. Maybe not make big decisions on that day, knowing like I could speak to not early on, you learn these things. Like now I've learned to, sometimes you might have started off having a bad week. Then I'd narrow it down to 3 days. Then I'd narrow it down to 24 hours, then 12 hours. Now I'm probably down to 2 hours, like you learn to work on those things, that self-talk. What can you do? Go to the gym, eat good food, go for a run, move your body, have a good night's rest. So important, if I have 4 hours sleep, having a little one, you're going to have a bad day. Any little thing's going to make you anxious, but I know that. And I tell myself, instead of thinking, fuck, my world's falling apart and everything's going wrong. And, I get maybe 100 to 150 phone calls a day, and they're not all good phone calls, you got multiple job sites. You're going to have problems. That's my job. I'm a builder. I'm a problem solver. That's what I'm doing day in, day out. There's not one day where I'm not solving a problem. That's what I'm doing day in, day out. It's a very overwhelming, very confronting, but you learn to deal with it. You get the tools, you understand. And I tell myself, this too shall pass. If something's really bad, no matter what it is, it's going to pass. No matter what it is. And just reminding yourself, this too shall pass. Knowing that, you're going to have more problems. You're going to have different things that are affecting you. This problem isn't going to be a problem in 2-3 weeks' time. There's going to be a new problem. So it's like, don't make them so large. Don't implode it. Don't explode the problem so much. Just take it easy, know that it's going to pass, and work your way through it,
So I really love that. I really love that. I think thanks for sharing. Now, I think one thing I want to ask is, in the building industry for you, is problem solving about how to deal with the problem or how to accept the problem?
How to deal with the problem.
How to deal with it and solve it.
And solve it. It's always solving.
So it's not about going...
It's not about saying, that wall's 50 mil out of level or whatever it is, you can't just say, I'm going to live with it. It's not the way it works. You're like, oh, we got to solve this problem no matter what it is. Like I had a very big problem actually this week. You know, I was dealing with quite a large problem where, you know, we've got a multi-million-dollar house. It's a $4 million house. And we had original plumber went under and they forgot to run a pipe in the basement of this slab. And I was just like, man, what are we going to do here? Like I had multiple plumbers come to site. No one knew what they could do, but I was just calm, you know. I was like, okay, if we can't do that, can we do this? If we can't do that, working through it, not, you know, I was up at 12 o'clock at night messaging a plumber, like I was, you know, stressing out, and we worked through it. Obviously, we found the problem, but, you know, I just worked through it instead of leaving it in. I think it's just bringing it out as much as you can, because the faster you express the problem, the quicker it actually solves the problem, you know. So
has there been a time when you have failed, and what does that look like?
Yeah, I fail every day. Failure is a part of life, but it's not seen as a failure. It's like, all right, man, we fucked up, you know, I failed in this. It's like, what do we do to fix it? It's not a failure. It's only a failure.
What if you can't fix it?
It's only a failure. There's nothing that can't be fixed ever.
Nothing?
What can't be fixed? Give me an example of something that can't be fixed.
Relationships.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
But can't be fixed. It's for the best. As in, it's not a problem. If a relationship can't be fixed, it's for the best. If I can't fix it, I understand that, you know, I'm not going to try and fix something. In the building game, everything can be fixed, no matter what it is. And I'm happy to walk away with a problem that's going to cost me 30 grand, because I have a conscience. If something's not done right, no matter what it is, I don't care. If some people will dwell on a problem because it might cost them 30 grand. For me, I'd rather pay the 30 grand and not leave someone with a subpar job. So I don't care. The worst thing that can happen to me is I'll lose money. I don't have that attachment. It's like, best case scenario, we lose money, we walk away with a problem being solved. There's nothing really that can't be solved.
So you'd rather keep that reputation of your business?
100%. That will hurt me more than losing the money. The money I'll make back. Leaving someone with a bad taste in their mouth and a subpar job that they've paid their life savings for. You got to understand, I'm dealing with people that are spending their life savings on their dream home day in and day out. I've got multiple of them, not just one or two or three or four. I've got multiple people spending their life savings on a house. It's the most money someone's going to spend in their entire life.
And they're trusting
They're
you.
my clients, and they're trusting me with that money.
Yeah.
I have to give them everything that I can, and I'll go to sleep at night smiling. And that's why, if there's a problem, I'm not upset because there's a problem. I'm upset because of the client. Like, you know, I don't want to upset the clients. You know, I'm doing everything I can to make sure that the job's done properly and nothing's done subpar.
No, nice. Thanks. How about you, Jonathan?
And day to day in the construction industry, there's always going to be something. So you're just not making things a problem. Like as you said, it's all solutions. And things like failure, like I think that's a very strong word. Like I don't think we really fail in the construction industry unless things go terribly, terribly wrong. But
So it's so funny.
Give me an example
lead to that.
of when you experienced really dark times for yourself, and what made you kind of bounce back, and things that were really difficult for you that, you know, and then what are the kind of tools that you kind of learned over time that helped you bounce back?
Look, I think when you talk about stress, I think stress is like a really broad thing. It's a chemical reaction happening in your body, and it's our perspective on the stress, our perspective on everything. Everything in our day-to-day life is really just our perspective and how we can grow our perspective. Whether you're depressed, you're happy, whatever you're experiencing, you're just experiencing different perspectives on different things. And your perspective on stress, your relationship with stress is always going to change. And it's always going to evolve. Now, when I was in my darkest times, it just, how I was perceiving the stress through that time is one thing. But for me,
tell me about that time.
For me, in those darkest times, like, I was experiencing stress every single day. Like it's cortisol's redlining through my body the whole time. You know, you're disconnected. eating really bad, you're just working 16, 17 hours a day because you got no choice, because you're in that state.
When you say disconnected, what do you mean by it?
Like your connection with self, your connection to God and your inner self, and how much self-love, you know, how much gratitude you're feeling, how much, like when you're really stressed, you can't be like chronically stressed and feeling gratitude at the same time. It just doesn't work.
Same part of the brain.
Opposite emotions, you know?
Yeah. So when you're chronically stressed, you know, disconnected, what impact does this have on your family or friends?
Yeah, it impacts everything. It impacts everything. Like throughout that time, you know, you start distancing probably from friends. Your conversations aren't, you know, the most positive or the most, you know, if your energy is low, then you're not going to be giving off a high energy. So throughout those times, all I could do, I didn't have many options. The only things that I could do was just keep focusing on where I need to go and working on it day to day. And slowly through doing that, you know, working the long hours, putting in the effort to just get out of the situations that I'm in, it slowly you start dropping off the commitments or the things that are causing the stress. And you can, I knew there was gonna be a better day, you know. It's nothing is the end of the world. Things are just happening. Everything is just happening, and we're just in the experience. But back then, when I was experiencing, you know, the highest levels of stress and all that, yeah, it was a pretty negative time. But I knew that, okay, there's steps forward. I got to start eating better. I got to start drinking better. Just drinking water. You know, starting with the basic stuff. So like you said earlier, keeping it simple, tackling the simple stuff, but still tackling the stuff that's there, that's stressing me out. That is the biggest problems in life at that time. And you know, it took me about probably 6 months to get out of it. It didn't happen over a day or a week. It took about 6 months. But then once I was out, I could start, you know, reflecting on how I was acting and who I was during that time, and how I was treating my wife, and, you know, how I was treating my family, and how I was treating staff, and whatever it is. Like you can, it's hard to self-analyze when you're in it, because you just got to fight to get out of it. But once you're out of it, you've got more time to sit and reflect and understand and get better, you know, and because there'll be a day where you're in that time again, and then it comes down to how you perceive the stress the next time you enter it, you know, and stress, like cortisol in itself, now I understand that it's a lot more of an addictive, it's like an addictive chemical reaction. So when cortisol's released, your body yearns for it. So you might wake up the next day pre-wired to stress, you know, so it's starting your day off right, doing things so that you can mitigate it. But then once you're in it, like once there's been a massive cortisol dump in my body, then I'm like, all right, I may as well harness it and just perceive it in a positive way. Okay, I'm stressed today. I'm in fight or flight. Let's take advantage and let's work. Let's tackle things head on, because that's when you're in the state to do so. So it's just working with what you've got on the day, and look, you can meditate. Like I was trying to meditate throughout those times, you know, taking that extra 10 minutes out to just close my eyes, focus on my breath. And I was doing this in a time where I was most stressed. But when you are in those times of being most stressed, the meditation's not really going to work. You will meditate, you will, you know, activate a little bit of the parasympathetic nervous system. You can tap into a bit more of a relaxed state, but not ultimate. You're not going to go into ultimate states of bliss and gratefulness when you're ultra stressed. You know, we can just use the meditation to regulate breathing techniques. These days now, I'm a lot more aware of it. As soon as I'm in any situation, I just straight away close my mouth, make sure I'm breathing through my nose, long, deep breaths. You know, that instantly, 3-4 minutes of that is instantly going to, you know, change your state of consciousness. Getting into grass, or, you know, getting your feet or into nature, connect to the earth, connect to a tree, whatever it is, you're just trying to connect. You know, I was saying before, disconnection. Now we're talking about connecting. So whenever you're stressed, you're essentially disconnected.
Nice. I think I love what you both have talked about, and how you've both dealt with stress and like hard times. I think one thing I have noticed about us three that we have all in common is that we work in a profession where we're helping other people socially, right? We want people to essentially like us, right? Like our work, like what we do. And so for me, as a therapist, when I speak with so many people and I bring my best self to them, this is me being vulnerable here, is what happens is I tend to give all my clients my best self. And what happens to the people closest to me? They don't really get that best self, right? Because I'm so hyper-focused on problem solving for my clients, right? And that's something that I've had to personally battle with. And I think that's why I'm big on therapists going to see other therapists. And I've had therapy too myself, and I think it's important for me to understand that holistically, it's not just about my clients, if that makes sense. I know it could be the bigger picture towards the end of like the bigger picture is if I please my clients, I'm going to please my family, I'm going to please my loved ones. But really, from a level of being right there, do you guys kind of agree with that? Like, do you see?
I like the observation, but I don't know how much they're connected. Like,
what do you mean?
Potentially you could be experiencing, you could think that the reason why you're not nurturing, say, people, loved ones in your life, because you're spending a lot of your time nurturing the client, but it also could just be, these could be subconscious behaviors that you've adapted from childhood and then you're bringing them on into your adult life.
What do you mean by that? What's the subconscious behavior?
The way you're treating your loved ones, whatever the thing is in your life. Does that make sense? I don't know. I'm just saying, I think it's an excuse. It could be a bit of an excuse to think that, it could be, I could be wrong, but we don't know why we are those way. I personally feel like I experienced that with my loved ones, where I come home and I'm probably way less of a person that I could be, but then I realize that it's retraining myself because they're behaviors that I picked up from my dad. Does that make sense?
No, I totally agree. I think, I'm not saying that's the reason, right? And then I can't do anything about it. Me doing something about it is about going to therapy and saying, okay, how can I be more present, right? Because like you're saying, but my question and my idea is, have you guys ever been addicted to your work where you kind of, because like what Paul said, you're focused on keeping these relationships really good. You sometimes kind of are behind a little bit with your own relationships.
I feel like everything is so, like, as in we're probably both in the part of our lives where we do everything so consciously. So we're not just going to unconsciously do so much. So if I'm in work and I'm going hard, there's people out there that are probably going hard at work and they're lost in it. They don't know they're doing that. Whereas I feel like I've built myself up, so I'm conscious. If I'm in work, I know I'm in work and I know, hey babe, I might be neglecting you over the next month because I'm going to be busy. It's more of an understanding. I'm not just getting lost in anything. I understand what I'm doing at all times, and sometimes I might not, and sometimes someone might pull me up on it, and it's about not having ego. Johnny might say, hey bro, you've been MIA or whatever, and I'm like, fuck, I didn't realize, it's about pulling back, pulling. And for me, this is more of a spiritual thing, I think. But again, when you were talking about problems, and I don't see anything as a problem. Like, for example, we get $1 million contracts. Let's just say, for example, 3 weeks ago, we lost a $3.5 million contract. We hadn't started the job, but we thought we had won it and we didn't win it. And, maybe 99% of the people would be so upset over that. But I wasn't even 1% upset. You know, the mentality that I have, and this is where I come back to the spirituality, is it wasn't meant to be. And looking back, I always put myself in the future, and I'll look back, and every single time something doesn't work out, I'll look back and I'll say, thank God that didn't work out, because I wouldn't be here. That got me here. That not working out got me to where I needed to be. Yeah. I didn't see that at the time. But now when I look back, I know, oh shit, that worked out for the best. So now I forward think that. I know, oh, hey, that didn't work out today. I don't need to be in 6 months' time looking back. I'll say it didn't work out for a reason, because I'll know that reason in 6 months, but I'll look at that today and I'll know, hey, it's not working out today. I'll know soon why, but it's all good. It's chill. God's got a plan. You know, it didn't work out for a reason. So there's no massive reason to ever be overly upset or overly down over something that happens. I'm always going to be one step ahead of it and know, hey, it's happening for a reason. And I believe everything is always happening for you, not to you, you know? So everything's happening for me. So I can't be upset, you know? And no matter what the situation is, you know, we're here for this life experience. And it's just about like really like, they're life tools. It's almost like we're playing a game, and you got to know a few hacks. You got to know a few like, it's all perspective. Like everything is perspective. But I feel like these little life hacks, they'll get you through and you'll live a fucking good life.
Nice. No, I like that. Look, I think, I mean, one thing I try to help my clients with, especially with exactly what you said, right? It's about, so I always talk about 3 tiers of uncertainty, right? In our life, in everyday life, we have 3 tiers of uncertainty, right? There's a low-level uncertainty, which is, I don't know, like I'm going to put the clothes out on the line and I stuffed up because I didn't know it was going to rain, right? That's dealing with uncertainty. Or I went to leave the house today and I forgot my umbrella. Or I went to the bus stop and I just can't sit there, so I go on my phone. That's dealing with uncertainty. Right? Then there's middle tier uncertainty, which is like my boss might fire me. I might not get this job. I might not be able to, my partner might leave me, right? And then there's a really high tier uncertainty, which is I could get cancer tomorrow. I could get a really life-changing diagnosis, right? And if you're not able to deal with these lower end levels of uncertainty, when these higher end levels of uncertainty, you just can't cope. It's just really hard to cope, right? Because you're training your muscle every day, right? That lower level uncertainty is kind of like, you know, I feel really bored. I'm going to not sit in this boredom and distract myself. Right? So it's training your brain to kind of deal with sometimes feeling uncomfortable, right? And so, I mean, it's kind of like,
how would you tell someone to improve and get to the point where they can deal with the low level and then deal with the medium? Like, what are the tactics or what are the techniques to deal with uncertainty?
Very similar to what you guys have described, and which is why I love what you guys have described. Right? You guys have both talked about meditation, changing your thought patterns, right? Me running anger management programs, right, to 10 prisoners. What do you think someone with an anger problem, a problem with managing their anger and aggression, what do you think their self-talk is like?
Angry.
They'll bump their leg and they'll say, I'm a fucking idiot. I'm such an idiot.
Is that always the case though?
Always the case.
Yeah.
Always the case. Whenever someone's got an issue with anger or regulating their emotions, if you ask them, what's your inner self-talk like? They'll always tell you, I'm a bad person. I'm defected. I'm not worthy. Because then if you're always thinking in your head that I'm a bad person, the next thing that's going to be bad is everyone around you, right? And that's why they're quick to anger, because they're quick to anger because they hate who they are.
Do you
Right.
ever have people that don't?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but let's just. What is it that we had to do?
Yeah, tell her.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Fuck, we digressed.
We ended up
man.
in a mad convo, but it's
No, that was
it's
great.
cool
That's
as.
what we need.
Okay.
Are we actually on pause, like even recording?
No, who cares?
Okay.
I'm
We got
outside of
time.
though.
Yeah, it's all right.
Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Is it okay?
It's also very soothing. So
It is?
yeah.
Okay, good.
I felt soothed during that.
Yeah, I feel like it was a crazy
My
convo.
voice?
Like I'm
Yeah.
loving it.
No, it was
I
good.
think if you want to do something else, maybe we can wrap this up as an episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Starting something else. Just give it time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you thinking, Luca? Like,
Yeah,
what's on your mind?
I'd-
Thinking like we can just have like clips that we can even like use, or for example, we can be like, as a registered psychologist, these are 3 tips that I give to someone dealing with stress.
Okay.
And then you guys can do the same thing.
Okay.
And eventually you just have
But we'll start that as a new recording.
Cool. All right.
We've got 10 minutes left.
I'll just. All
I
right.
think, yeah, just
I'll just grab my phone because
I've got
a little thing
I think maybe just sign off.
Yeah. Cool. We'll sign off now. Mike Larry.
Sorry, one sec.
All good.
That was great conversation.
That was good. I felt like we could
Oh,
speak for another 2
yeah, we
hours.
could speak for so long. That's why it's sick. Like,
Hey, I've got a quick question.
Yep.
Do you ever have someone that you're with, and obviously that are like, not super conscious, they don't hear the voice in their head, or they don't understand, like when you say to them, oh, what's the voice in your head, or what's your self-talk? Is there anyone that like, oh, I don't have any?
I mean, I don't think no one really has any self-talk, because if you think about it,
you're always.
we're always talking.
Yeah.
We're always hearing ourselves. And if you think about it as well, this is why I wanted to come back to this, right? Because you guys are both highly, highly motivated and highly passionate and about pushing through adversity, right? Which is what I love. But one thing you guys haven't mentioned is, as you guys are both fathers, we're social creatures, right? So who would you go to when you're struggling?
God.
But you're a social creature as well, right? That's something that you can talk to, someone you can talk to, because that's you talking to someone. But do you go to someone?
For me, it'd be probably like other men, like would be mainly my old man and probably Jono. They're the
Nice.
2 people that are confining the most.
Yeah,
to be
nice.
honest.
Yeah, probably people close to me, but also I've come to realize that there are no problems in life. It's all your perspective. Things are just happening constantly, and it's just your perception on it. There is essentially, like, obviously sometimes things are going to happen that might throw a curveball, but it's just the way you perceive it. And I believe as humans, we can be trapped in the unconscious behaviors and the unconscious perspectives, or we get to choose. We actually have the choice to choose the way we perceive something. So something happens, in the first minute, we can be reactive. In the first couple of seconds, you're going to be reactive. You might be like, fuck, what's going on? But you've got time. After 10 minutes, once the reactive state has calmed down, or an hour later or the next day, you can be like, okay, this has happened. It's a massive curveball in my life. But you can sit down when we're privileged enough to be able to do this, you can sit down and write down 10 positive perspectives on the situation. So something really bad happens, you can stop and be like, all right, what are 10 different perspectives that I could perceive this problem as that would be positive? And then you could pick the best perspective, and then you can ingrain that into your pathways so that becomes your perspective. And then you've perceived the problem in the best possible way, and then moving forward, it's no longer a problem because you have the best possible perspective on whatever it is. It's no longer a problem. It's just your perspective on the thing that's happened.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think my only advice I would give when dealing with people with mental health and struggles is even though we look at problems in a certain way,
Not everyone does.
not everyone does, right?
Yeah.
And you always need to meet people where they're at,
Correct.
not where you're at. So you need to kind of go,
Sometimes it'll
what
make
does it
them
look
worse
like?
because they're like, oh,
Right?
I can't do that. You know?
But if they're having that experience, then that's their experience in life.
exactly. But
They're just
the way-
having their experience. The way they're perceiving it is that's just their life experience.
Mm-hmm.
I can't alter it. I'm not the psychologist.
No, but
They're
it's,
coming to you. You're ultimately not even, you're guiding their thought patterns. They're having the experience regardless. And then you're just giving them essential feedback so that they can perceive things a little bit differently.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast, Mike.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll have the episode 2.
Nice.
Yeah,
Thank
looking
you.
forward to having you back so we
Thanks.
can delve deeper. Next time we'll lock in
Yeah,
a
thank
solid
you.
3 hours.
Legend.
I can blab on.
Thanks, man.